For years, Lacey Chabert has been one of the most familiar faces in Hallmark movies. She's known for those warm romances, happy endings, and the kind of chemistry with her co-stars that keeps viewers coming back. So naturally, when fans started talking about Lacey's relationship with her new co-star, Scott Michael Foster, people began to wonder if there might be more to their connection than what we see on screen. The two are starring together in Paris is Always a Good Idea, and their chemistry has certainly caught attention. But some of the headlines and online rumors have taken things a step further, suggesting a secret romance or even an affair. Now, before anyone jumps to conclusions, there's an important distinction between what has actually been said and what's simply being speculated online. So what's really going on between Lacey Chabert and Scott Michael Foster? Why has their on-screen relationship created so much buzz? And where did these romance rumors come from? Let's take a closer look at what we actually know and what may have been blown completely out of proportion. Well, sometimes a romantic scene looks effortless when it finally appears on screen. The couple smiles, the lights are perfect, the city looks beautiful, the music rises at exactly the right moment, and everything seems to happen as though it was planned by fate. But behind that few seconds of television can be a completely different story. For Lacey Chabert and Scott Michael Foster, one of the most romantic moments in their new Hallmark Plus limited series, Paris is Always a Good Idea, came with a surprising amount of pressure. The reason was simple. They weren't filming inside a controlled studio. They were standing in Paris, at one of the world's most recognizable landmarks, surrounded by tourists, with only a narrow window of time to capture the shot. And then there was the Eiffel Tower. More specifically, the famous sparkling lights that illuminate the landmark for only a few minutes at the top of every hour. For Chabert, who has spent years appearing in romantic movies and television projects, the setting should have been a dream. Instead, she admits she was nervous. "I'm not going to lie, I was nervous," Chabert told People while discussing the experience. The actress explained that filming in front of the actual Eiffel Tower was completely different from recreating the landmark on a soundstage or using a green screen. The production had to work around the real world. There was no way to simply ask Paris to wait. If the timing was wrong, they couldn't just reset everything and try again whenever they wanted. The Eiffel Tower would sparkle again an hour later, but the production couldn't necessarily afford to wait. That meant the actors and crew had to be ready, and when the moment arrived, everyone had to get it right. A romantic scene with a very real deadline. The pressure came down to timing. The Eiffel Tower sparkles for only a short period each hour, creating one of the most recognizable nighttime images in Paris. For a romantic television series, it's almost impossible to imagine a better backdrop. But from a filmmaker's perspective, it's also a logistical nightmare. Chabert explained that the cast and crew had only a limited number of opportunities to capture the scene while the tower was illuminated. "We wouldn't be able to stay for the next hour," she said, explaining just how important those few minutes were. Instead of repeatedly shooting the scene and casually choosing the best version later, they had to work with a very specific window. The instructions were essentially straightforward. Get ready, know exactly what you're doing, and make it work. Chabert remembered being told that they would have only a couple of chances, and that they couldn't simply stop and restart whenever something went slightly wrong. That kind of pressure can be difficult even for an experienced actor. And Chabert is hardly new to romantic television. She has become one of Hallmark's most recognizable stars over the years, appearing in numerous movies and building a reputation for bringing warmth and sincerity to her characters. But even years of experience don't eliminate the nerves that come with knowing an entire production is waiting for you to nail one particular shot. "I didn't want to be the reason that it didn't work out," Chabert explained. That may be one of the most relatable parts of the story. From the audience's perspective, a romantic scene can look spontaneous. For the actors, it can involve an enormous amount of concentration. Where should a hand go? Where should they look? How close should they stand? When should they move? How should the camera capture the moment? And what happens if a tourist unexpectedly walks through the shot? All of those details matter. It wasn't just about the kiss. One of the things Chabert found particularly challenging was the technical side of the scene. A romantic moment might look simple to viewers, but continuity can be surprisingly complicated. If an actor moves their hand differently between takes, the editor may not be able to match the shots. If one person turns their head too early, the angle may not work. If the actors aren't positioned correctly, the lighting can change. And when you're filming against the Eiffel Tower at night, there isn't much room for error. Chabert explained that they were focused on making sure their hands were in the right positions and that they weren't looking at each other at the wrong moment. It sounds almost funny when you think about it. Two actors are standing beneath the Eiffel Tower, surrounded by the atmosphere of Paris, preparing to film a romantic scene. But instead of simply enjoying the moment, they're thinking about camera marks, continuity, and timing. That's the reality of television production. And somehow, they managed to make it work. Foster admits it was crazy. Scott Michael Foster remembers the experience in much the same way. For him, the entire sequence became a race against the clock. But unlike Chabert, Foster seems to look back at the situation with a little more amusement. "It was crazy that we actually got it on time," he said. And they didn't merely get something usable. According to Foster, they managed to complete a take that worked perfectly. The timing came together, the Eiffel Tower was sparkling, the performances were right, the camera was ready, and the scene was captured. For everyone involved, that must have been an enormous relief, because sometimes the best moments in television happen when everything lines up at exactly the right second. And this scene had another unexpected piece of luck, one that Chabert says viewers may actually notice: the tourist who accidentally became part of the scene. While watching the finished scene, Chabert noticed something she hadn't expected. Her character's foot was supposed to lift at the end of the romantic moment. It's a tiny gesture. Normally, viewers might not even notice it, but because her shoe was black and the sky behind her was dark, the movement wasn't especially visible. Then, at exactly the right moment, a woman walked through the background wearing a white dress. Suddenly, the movement became visible. The woman essentially created a natural contrast that made the shot work. It wasn't something the filmmakers could have planned. It wasn't part of the choreography. It wasn't something an effects team added later. It simply happened. And that's the kind of small coincidence that can make a scene feel magical. Chabert described it as one of those moments where everything simply worked out. For a production that had spent so much time worrying about timing, it was almost fitting that the final touch came from something nobody could control. Paris became more than just a backdrop. The Eiffel Tower wasn't the only reason filming the project in Europe was special for Chabert. The entire experience of filming overseas appears to have changed the way she approached the role. For an actor who has spent years working in the Hallmark world, the opportunity to spend an extended period filming an entire limited series in another country offered something different. Instead of arriving for a relatively short movie shoot and quickly returning home, Chabert had more time to settle into the character. That mattered because Paris is always a good idea isn't simply a single television movie. The project consists of 6 episodes. That gave the actors considerably more room to explore their characters and the story. Chabert said that having 6 episodes allowed them to dig deeper. For an actress accustomed to working within the tighter structure of television movies, that was a welcome change. There was more time, more story, more character development, and more opportunity to explore relationships beyond the surface. 6 episodes changed the experience. That's one of the biggest differences between a limited series and a traditional television movie. A movie may have to establish a character, introduce a conflict, develop a romance, and bring everything to a satisfying conclusion within a couple of hours. 6 episodes offer breathing room. Characters can have conversations that don't necessarily have to advance the central plot immediately. Relationships can develop gradually. Small details can become meaningful later, and actors have more opportunities to explore different sides of their characters. For Chabert, that appears to have been one of the most enjoyable aspects of the production. She described the experience as a joy and said it was wonderful to have 6 episodes to tell the characters' stories. That extended format also required a different kind of preparation. A 300-page script. Filming 6 episodes wasn't simply a longer version of making a movie. Chabert explained that the production was working across a script that stretched roughly 300 pages, and the actors weren't necessarily filming the story in straightforward chronological order. Instead, they were working across all 6 episodes throughout the production. That can be mentally demanding. An actor may film an emotional scene from the final part of the story one day and then return to an earlier moment in the character's journey the next. Keeping track of the character's emotional development becomes essential. Chabert said the overseas production made her feel particularly focused. Being away from home meant there were fewer distractions. She wasn't simply commuting to a familiar set. She was in another country, working long days and immersing herself in the story, and she embraced that experience. The advantage of being far from home. There's something interesting about filming abroad. Actors are still doing the same job, but the environment can change the experience. Chabert explained that when home is in a different time zone, you can become more immersed in the work. There's less temptation to mentally switch back into normal life. Paris becomes the place where you wake up, work, rehearse, film, and return at the end of the day. For a performer, that can create a strange but useful bubble. The character becomes the main focus, and because the series required attention across 6 episodes, Chabert found herself particularly invested. She wasn't just showing up for a handful of scenes, she was living with the character for an extended period. Foster had high expectations. For Scott Michael Foster, there was another kind of pressure before filming even began. He knew he would be working with Lacey Chabert, and he knew her reputation. Foster admitted that being told he would be working with the Queen of Hallmark was a little intimidating. That's understandable. Chabert has become one of the network's most familiar faces. Her name has become closely associated with romantic television. She's built a large and loyal audience, and she has developed a reputation for being prepared and professional. Foster wasn't exactly sure what to expect, but he quickly found that the reality went beyond the nickname. More than the Queen of Hallmark. Foster praised Chabert not simply as an established actress, but as someone who brought leadership to the production. He said she was professional, prepared, and consistently brought her best effort to the set. That kind of compliment is significant because it speaks to the experience of working alongside someone, rather than simply watching their finished performances. An actor can be talented on screen, but being a strong scene partner requires something else. You have to listen, you have to prepare, you have to support the other performers, you have to understand the demands of the production, and, perhaps most importantly, you have to be dependable. Foster said Chabert brought those qualities every day. He also made it clear that he felt fortunate to be part of the project. their on-screen chemistry. That professional relationship is particularly important because the series depends heavily on the chemistry between its leads. Romance doesn't work on screens simply because two attractive people are standing next to each other. The audience needs to believe the characters are interested in one another. They need to understand why these people connect. They need to feel the tension, and they need to care about what happens to the relationship. That becomes even more important when the story is spread across 6 episodes. There's room for the relationship to develop. There can be misunderstandings. There can be moments of hesitation. There can be humor. There can be vulnerability. And there can be those big romantic scenes that audiences expect from Hallmark. The Eiffel Tower moment is simply one example. A romantic scene that almost didn't happen. Looking at the finished sequence, it's easy to forget how much could have gone wrong. The Eiffel Tower might not have been visible properly. The lights might have stopped sparkling before the camera was ready. A tourist could have walked directly into the shot. An actor could have missed a movement. A technical issue could have forced the crew to stop, and then they would have had to wait an entire hour. But none of that happened. Instead, the scene came together. The tower sparkled, the actors delivered their performances, and a random tourist in a white dress accidentally added something special to the frame. That's the kind of story actors remember long after filming ends. Why the moment matters. For Chabert, the experience seems to represent what she enjoyed most about the series. It wasn't just about the romance. It was about having the opportunity to spend more time with a character. It was about filming in Paris. It was about working with a new cast. And it was about being challenged creatively. After years of appearing in movies that often follow a familiar romantic formula, a 6-episode limited series gave her room to explore. That's an opportunity she clearly appreciated. And Foster's comments suggest that he appreciated the collaboration just as much. What viewers can expect. When audiences finally watch Paris is Always a Good Idea, they may see the Eiffel Tower scene simply as a beautiful romantic moment. They'll see the lights, they'll see the actors, they'll see Paris behind them. They'll probably hear the music and enjoy the atmosphere. But knowing the story behind the scene makes it more interesting, because now viewers know that what looks effortless was actually carefully timed. They know the actors were working against the clock. They know the tower's sparkling lights created a deadline. And they know that one passing tourist unexpectedly helped make the shot even better. It's a reminder that filmmaking isn't always perfectly controlled. Sometimes the best moments happen because something unexpected goes right. A new chapter for Lacey Chabert. For Lacey Chabert, the series also represents another step in the evolution of her career. She's no longer simply appearing in individual romantic movies. She's taking on projects that allow her to explore characters over a longer period. That can be valuable for an actor. It gives her more room to experiment. It gives audiences more time to understand her character. And it allows her to build relationships with her fellow performers that aren't rushed by a short production schedule. Her enthusiasm for the project suggests that this is exactly the kind of opportunity she wanted. And for Foster? For Foster, working opposite Chabert seems to have been an equally important experience. He entered the production knowing he would be paired with one of Hallmark's most recognizable stars. He left with an even greater appreciation for her professionalism. That's perhaps one of the strongest endorsements an actor can give another performer. Not simply saying that someone is talented, but saying that they're prepared, they're dependable, they lead, and they make everyone around them better. The magic wasn't just on screen. That may ultimately be the real story behind Paris is Always a Good Idea. The romance audiences will see on screen was carefully constructed, but the experience behind it was very real. There were nerves, There were long days. There were technical details. There was a 300-page script. There were 6 episodes to keep track of. There were tourists moving around the actors, and there was a ticking clock whenever the Eiffel Tower began to sparkle. Yet somehow, all those pieces came together, and that's exactly what filmmaking is supposed to do. Turn a complicated process into something that feels simple. Turn a few minutes of filming into a romantic memory. Turn an accidental tourist into part of the story. And make audiences believe, even for a moment, that everything happened exactly the way it was supposed to. For Lacey Chabert and Scott Michael Foster, that Eiffel Tower scene may have been stressful while they were making it, but when viewers finally see it, the only thing they'll probably notice is the romance. And perhaps that's the greatest compliment a scene like this can receive. Because behind the camera, everyone was watching the clock. In front of the camera, Paris was sparkling. And somehow, against all the pressure, they got the perfect take.
The reason this story has caught so many people off guard is pretty simple. Lacey Chabert has always been very careful about keeping her private life private. That is part of what has made her such a comfortable presence for Hallmark viewers over the years. We see her on screen playing characters who fall in love, overcome misunderstandings, rebuild relationships, and eventually find their happy ending. But when the cameras stop rolling, Lacey has generally kept the details of her personal life away from the spotlight. That makes any rumor involving her romantic life especially interesting to fans. And now, Scott Michael Foster has entered the conversation. The two actors recently worked together on Paris Is Always a Good Idea, a project that gave them plenty of opportunities to build the kind of natural chemistry that viewers expect from a romantic movie. There are scenes where the two characters have to look completely comfortable around each other. They have to laugh together, share emotional moments, and make the audience believe that these two people could genuinely fall for one another. And, of course, that is exactly what actors are supposed to do. But sometimes, when two performers have particularly convincing chemistry, viewers begin wondering whether there is something happening away from the cameras as well. That appears to be where some of the speculation surrounding Lacey and Scott began. There is another detail that made the conversation even more interesting. Lacey has spoken openly about feeling nervous while filming a romantic scene with Scott at the Eiffel Tower, surrounded by tourists. Think about that for a moment. This wasn't a quiet soundstage with a small crew and nobody watching. They were filming at one of the busiest and most recognizable landmarks in the world, with tourists all around them. For an actor, that kind of environment can be uncomfortable, and Lacey admitted that she was nervous. But nervousness during an intimate scene does not automatically mean there is a secret relationship. In fact, it can mean exactly what she said it meant. Filming a romantic moment in front of a crowd is simply awkward. Still, once fans hear a story like that, it's easy for the internet to take over. A simple comment about being nervous can suddenly become a headline about chemistry. A friendly interview can become evidence of a supposed connection, and two actors smiling at each other during a promotional appearance can be presented as proof that something is happening behind the scenes. That is where we need to slow down, because there is a big difference between chemistry on screen and a real-life affair. So far, the public conversation does not establish that Lacey Chabert and Scott Michael Foster are having a secret romance. There is a lot of speculation, but speculation is not the same thing as confirmation. And for longtime Hallmark viewers, that distinction is important. Many fans have watched Lacey's career for years. They remember her from her earlier acting roles, they've followed her transition into Hallmark, and they've seen her work with countless leading men. It is not unusual for fans to become emotionally invested in those pairings. Sometimes, the chemistry is so convincing that viewers wish the actors were together in real life. But that's also a compliment to the actors. Lacey and Scott's job is to make us believe in the love story they're telling. If viewers walk away from the movie thinking those two really belong together, then the actors have done their job exceptionally well, and perhaps that is exactly what is happening here. There is also something else worth remembering about celebrity rumors in general. Once a dramatic headline appears online, other websites can repeat it, social media accounts can repost it, and eventually the original claim can look much more credible simply because people have seen it several times. But repetition doesn't turn a rumor into a fact. That's particularly important when the claim involves someone's marriage, family, or personal relationships. Lacey has built a career around wholesome entertainment, and she has generally avoided turning her private life into a public spectacle.